What do we call it? We can call it a live today. I'm super excited to be on here, and I've got Jodie here, which is one of our incredible spinal flow practitioners. She's in the Sunshine Coast in Gympie. Hello, Jodie.
Hi, Carly. How are you?
I'm well. I'm so excited that you're here to join us today and to share. Jodie actually shares a lot of stuff in. We've got this little private Facebook group for our practitioners, and she's been sharing some of the incredible successes that she's had in her practice. But you were sharing before that about your own self-healing journey. So I'd love to know
Yes.
more about your personal experience with spinal flow.
So I discovered Spinal Flow about 18 months ago. I'd been on a little bit of a rough healing journey myself. I tried many different modalities to help me. So I tried osteopathy, craniosacral, lots of massage, and I was seeing multiple practitioners on a weekly basis, but I just wasn't getting the relief that I needed. I'd suffered complete total burnout in 2016, and I'd never fully recovered from that. I had lots of different physical symptoms. So I had fibromyalgia. My hormones were all over the place. I was producing lots of cortisol at all the wrong times. I would wake multiple times during the night, 3 to 4 times. I then had a fall, probably about 2 years ago, and I fell on my coccyx. And I also had a wakeboarding accident, and I hit the back of my cranial in the head, in the water. And after those 2 events, my nervous system was really ramped up. I just could not settle. I was having panic attacks, very nervous as well. There was nothing that was really external creating that nervousness, but it was all internal. So I'd had heart palpitations, shortness of breath. I'd get like a postural orthostatic tachycardia type symptoms where I'd stand up, my heart rate would increase, and then my blood pressure would drop away. So I was sent to a cardiologist, and they wanted to put me on medications, and I'm a nurse, so I was kind of like, no, I don't really want to do that. I'm quite young. I want to get to the root of my problem. And I was pretty much on the verge of a mental breakdown because I just was in so much pain, immense brain fog as well, vertigo. And then I discovered Spinal Flow. And I had one session with one of your lovely practitioners in Karoi, at a Kiki Spinal Flow, and had one session, and pretty much all my symptoms went away.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to become a practitioner. This is life-changing.
Wow.
So yeah, and I had that beautiful flow just come up, and my head lifted up off the table, and it cracked. It was like going to a cracking Cairo. And then it all just went, and it was just like this overwhelming joy went through my entire body of just like, there goes all this pain and suffering that I'd been in for years. So that's why I'm here now. Incredible. Yeah.
Oh, you've got given me goosebumps
I know.
everywhere. How
I give
incredible,
myself
but how
goosebumps.
scary when, there's one thing after the other. And, it just shows, doesn't it, that, the amount of stress in our world, and that can create disease and illness, and we can get put on this medication, and we, the body, trauma, the coccyx, the vaping, all of that on top. I mean, the body's just overwhelmed with blockages, and when it's able to help them decrease and get flow, everything changes in your world.
And I mean, it wasn't just a physical change. There is so many more changes that come with this. Empowerment is one of them. I would always just be, okay, yes, yeah, and doing things that I never wanted to do, saying yes when I wanted to say no to people as well. And that is what has come from Spinal Flow as well. So, we talk a lot about the physical changes, but there's so many other changes that come as well. And that's why I do what I do today and work a part of your team. It's just amazing.
And that's what I had as well, because when I worked as a former chiropractor, it was great. You know, I was helping a lot of people with physical changes and it was all amazing. But I really looked at going, but I want to help change people's lives. And
Yeah.
that involves the mind, it involves the heart, but it involves actually empowering them to live a life full of purpose and passion, doing what they love, but also making choices and listening and trusting this body. So that's what I love too. It's like one part for sure, you know, we want to help people with symptoms, but it's bigger and deeper than that. It's like, how can we actually help people feel like you, like feel empowered?
I know. I know. And I mean, like just in my outer layers as well, everyone that comes in, you're always glowing all the time. And we laugh and I'm like, it's the spinal flow glow. And yeah, everything's just flowing and free. I just love it. Love every moment of this.
And that's what you're saying is, you know, that's the wisdom inside our body to flow and to be free. And our
Yeah.
spine is supposed to have that movement and flow inside. Like that's called health and healing. And this
Yeah.
thing blocked and stuck in disease and illness is because things aren't flowing. That's not normal. Even though people are like, oh, I have a little headache or I have a bit of depression, I have a bit, it's like, we're not supposed to be like that. Like
No.
if we flow, then we're going to have, like you said, we'll have glow.
Yeah. It's fab. I love it. So I've got lots of other beautiful stories here. I've got so many. We could literally sit here for a day.
Okay, we'll just stay for the day.
So I also am a disability support worker. So on Mondays, I work with this beautiful lady. She's 51 now. And I've been working with her for almost 2 years. So she was kind of like my little test, I guess, to see. So she had major blockages throughout her entire spine. She's got tumours in the meninges, so in C1, 2 and C5, 6, and also in her brain as well. At the age of 7, she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And it was really interesting to hear her story because she'd suffered quite a big trauma. You know, we've got the capital T traumas and the small t trauma. So she had a big trauma where she unexpectedly lost a loved one. And then after that, she got sick with flu-like symptoms. And then she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So I was like, oh, isn't that really interesting how a traumatic experience can impact on the body? So now, you know, she's got peripheral neuropathy that's come from that diabetes. She's had half a foot amputated and lots of other issues, you know, depression, anxiety. And she would sleep for pretty much my entire shift. So she would sleep for up to 16 hours most days and only rise for when we would get her out of bed at, say, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And she would have 1 meal a day. She would not drink any water. She was on, like, I can't even tell you the number of medications she was taking. So I started working with her. Her first session, she just laid in bed all day and I just come back in and just keep going on the access points. And she woke up and she's like, I don't even know who I am. Something has changed. And I was like, I worked on you all day while you were asleep. So after we got through a lot of these major blockages, she's no longer on a lot of medications. So we've eliminated 7 medications from her list.
Wow.
Amazing, right? She used to be on a really heavy opioid pain patch. So she was on a 40 milligram Norspan patch. She's now down to micrograms, sorry. She's now down to 25 micrograms, which is awesome. She no longer takes Lyrica, and that's a nerve blocker. So she was on 300 milligrams twice a day. She doesn't take that anymore. Super amazing.
Wow.
2 cardiac medications have been removed, so blood pressure's decreased. She's no longer taking her Lasix, so that's for fluid retention. So fluid has gone. She's lost 10 kilos just through spinal flow.
Wow.
And so if anyone's a diabetic listening to this, they'll fully understand. So they take a blood test called a HbA1c. And that gives you an average of what your blood sugars have been over, say, a 3 or 4 month period. So from the age of 7, she was always 9 and above. It's now dropped to 7, which is almost considered fairly normal and regulated for a HB1AC.
Wow.
Amazing. So what's also super cool is that if we take her out for shopping, she would have to use a wheelchair. And around the house, or if it was just a short distance walk, she would use a 4-wheelie walker. She doesn't use them anymore. She did have 35 falls in 2 weeks over
Wow, that's
Christmas.
amazing.
Of what are we in now? 22. So I've been really honing in on this for 12 months. She's had 2 falls in the last 14 months.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I know. And,
Oh,
you know, she's just
that
said
one
to
gives me
me,
tears. Just actually completely changing this woman's life.
yeah. And she's doing training now as well. So we train her functionally, doing functional patterns training. She does that twice a week. This is a lady that spent like 16 hours a day in bed and would fall asleep on the car rides. And now she's up boxing, rowing, you know, and she said to me, Jodie, I just feel like somebody has just lifted the veil and life is just so much clearer, not to mention everything else that she's feeling, you know, just, yeah, incredible changes. And she's worked so very hard as well. So, yeah, Spinal Flow has literally changed her life.
But really, and you to actually start working and saying, you know what, we're going to do that. It's like the confidence and certainty that you have about the body healing. And Spinal Flow is just the modality, but it's really about connecting to the wisdom in her body that she's always had, that's always been. But then those big traumas that have come in, and the diagnosis has started, but to start moving her back towards health. I mean, I'm not going to say it's insane, because it's what we do all day, is witness these incredible miracles. But what's insane is that her world was in bed and now she's out. I mean, that's beautiful. Thank you for what you, it's amazing.
And the other thing is that she'd never drink water. So she's drinking up to, you know, sometimes 1.5 litres of water a day now. She actually craves water now. And that's what we need for new cell growth too. So, you know, we're due to have some MRI scans next month to look at those tumours. Fingers are crossed. But, you know, we never know how innately wise the body is, hey, until we start doing this work. So excellent for that lady.
That's it. We don't know. Yeah, and a lot of people go, well, can you do this? And it's like, we don't know. And we just trust that the body does what it needs to do when it does it. And we start to watch, and people start to tell us they've noticed this and that. Changes happen. Medication can change. But again, it's like, I just know that the body wants, yes, this is great.
Awesome.
So good. I want to hear more. I know you've got a list there. Tell me more.
Oh, I wish I could show you photos of their transformation. Just their face alone, it's just amazing. So I've got a new little client that I started working with just before Christmas, and time really was of the essence here. She's 6 years old, and a lot of the practitioners have seen her transformation. It's just incredible. Like, I'm blown away. So she was diagnosed about 16 months ago, I think it was, with cancer in her right side of her jaw. And they've created a new jaw. So they took her tibia, I think it was, and restructured a whole new half a jaw, placed that back in. She's then undergone chemo and radiation. And that had been ongoing, you know, for almost 12 months. And then she was diagnosed with secondaries in the lungs. When she came to me, you know, she had a really significant blockage in that C1-2 pause. So much so that when you looked at the back of her cranial, there was like this butterfly shape red rash right at that brain stem there, you know, the top of the spine. And the cranial was so twisted, the eyes were on an angle, the ears were uneven, and there was quite a significant indentation, I guess we'll call it, in the back of her cranial there, which you can see in the photos that I've shared on our group. And then her pelvis is also really twisted, so much so that her little belly button is actually deviating to the right of her body. And shoulders were dropped and twisted, and it was just like, oh my gosh, so much trauma stored from all these visits to hospital and stays in hospital and all this stuff that had been put into her body. And it was just like, oh, she's protecting. And the spine was just full of blockages the whole way through. And she had a really distinctive red line on the right side of her cheek. And I was like, oh, you know, looking at a little bit of Chinese medicine, acupuncture, that was a line, a meridian line or an area for the lungs. And I was like, isn't that interesting? But I started working with her, and we worked really intensely. So I gave her 3 sessions in one day. And just to see the difference in 3 sessions, her whole cranial just started to shift. Her jaw started to align. It was out of alignment, even though they'd restructured that. On the table, huge shifts in her pelvis. Like she was jumping off, you know, when we have that movement flow, jumping off, and her pelvis was like, you know, twisting, and she was doing all this magical work. And then we could literally watch that rash disappear, that cranial just, it was just magic to watch. Anyway, today is her last day, or yesterday was her last day of radiation for her lungs. They did a scan on her jaw. There are no cancer cells to be found.
Yeah.
And she has beautiful hair coming, thicker than it's ever been. And she's in the bathroom. Her mum sent me a photo of her blow drying her hair. And she just looks amazing. She's eating. She went to school. She went to the first day of school starting back. So she hadn't been to school in months. And she managed to get to the first day of school. So yeah, eating better, sleeping better. I've actually been working on mum as well, because, you know, I think that's really important. These little people are regulated by mum's nervous system too. Mum was really stressed, not sleeping. So that's been a team effort and a family effort. So I'm working on the other children, and Dad's had a session too. So we could all, you know, be vibrationally on the same level. And yeah, I've got her for 4 weeks now before she has to go back to hospital. So I'm going to just get in there. We're doing lots of work, and hopefully she'll go back and we'll get some really amazing news about the lungs, and this journey can hopefully be over, because the wisdom was just amazing. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful, so good. And I've had the same, you know, I've had people that have come to me that have said, hey, I want to heal this naturally. I want to do whatever it takes. I'm like, okay, let's go there. I've had people that are like, I'm doing chemo, I'm doing radio. I want to come to you, so this comes through my body and healing happens. And I'm like, great. We don't ever make decisions on anyone, but to support in the healing process, the results just can be incredible. And we often blow the doctors' minds, because they're like, what are you doing? And to go through that process that she's going and like have more health and more healing, it's just incredible to, you know, to partner. It's not partner, because it's not like the medical professional wanting to partner with us, but it's actually partnering with these people that there's so much happening in their world. But if we can actually help them process it, move everything through so it's doing what it needs, like the results are incredible.
Oh, I mean, if every time I've shared this little girl's story on our certification page, everyone's just blown away. I mean, to see her eyes were just so sad and there was no real life in them. And now they're just this most beautiful, brightest blue, and the whites are so white. Yeah, and her mum's just like, she's bouncing off the walls, Jodie. She's just got so much energy. And I'm like, yeah, that's how life is meant to be, and that's how our bodies are meant to be. So, yeah, amazing.
Can I just say that? I just want to say with as well, because what you said is really important. Like, there's so much stress going on with that family. Like, you know, the fact that, I mean, I've seen the photos and they're incredible. It's like this girl has got life back into her world, into her body. But what you said is really important too, because she's not alone on that. You know,
No,
you've got mum, you've got dad, you've got that family, and it's devastating for them. You know, their little girl has been unwell. So the fact that you've come in and worked with both of them too, with their nervous system stress, the whole family can start to see light and change is incredible, because we are joined. And I was the same when I worked with little ones. I always wanted to work with mum and dad too, because the stress is real. Like, it's full on what they're going through. So I love that you have worked on the whole family, just so they can, you know, feel that in their body and dump some of this stress that they've had to hold.
absolutely. Absolutely. There's so many here. It's so hard to choose, but so this is a 45-year-old lady, and I'll read her testimonial first, I guess, and it's just part of her testimony. I've got, you know, the testimonies that I get are really quite long and in depth. So she wrote, "I was completely lost and feeling emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically exhausted. So I did 13 intense sessions with her to start with. She now actually comes every week because she loves this so much. All my symptoms are gone. I feel absolutely recharged, strong mentally as well as emotionally. All, as I said, physical symptoms are gone, and I can actually breathe." And this is what was really interesting with her. So she had neck pain, stiff neck, headaches, fatigue, sleep disorders, really severe lower back pain, loss of balance, stomach and digestive issues. So she'd swing between diarrhea and constipation. And she's a horse person, so she does lots of horse riding. And she'd gotten to the point of where she would actually hook the horses up and drive them around the training arena because she couldn't walk them anymore due to the pain and the shortness of breath. So she pretty much had a spine full of blockages when we started. There was probably not one vertebrae that didn't have a blockage. And so we did 12 really quick ones, and she went through a detox phase. So after 2 sessions, it started. She had flu-like symptoms, really heavy congestion coming from her chest. She thought, I've got to go to the doctor and get antibiotics. And I was like, please don't. Let's just hit you with lots more sessions really quickly, drink lots of water. You need to rest, because she was go, go, go all the time. That was her life, just get up, go, just on this cycle, you know, like she was just pedaling to the top of a mountain, but she fell over the top. And I said to her, you know, a lot of grief and sadness is stored in our lungs, in this heart space. You know, now that this congestion is lifting and it's clearing out, what are you feeling there? She's like, actually, you're right. So much grief and sadness in my life. And then she had a big emotional release, and then it just cleared like that. And I was like, oh my God, that is so amazing. So she comes every week now. It's her self-care routine. You know, she sings praises of myself, and I'm like, well, this is you doing all this work. I'm just here to facilitate this. So that was incredible. All symptoms completely gone, and also working with her children as well now too.
You to be here, because it really is just, I just want people to know that healing can happen. And
Mm.
often if it's just me saying healing happens, they're like, oh, this is rubbish. You don't know what's happening in my body. And so I just feel really grateful for you coming on and telling me about these people and your own journey, because in our world, healing does happen. And
Mm.
these people are changing their lives. And it doesn't mean it's instant. I mean, for you, it was pretty instant, like one session, but it can be a really big slog of healing sessions. And all of that's okay, because for me, what's not okay is to move towards more illness, more disease, more symptoms,
Mm.
lack of life. Whereas if we can spin that around and start to move towards health and healing, then we're changing lives. And these people are getting back out of bed and saying, hey, I get to live in this body, which is absolutely incredible. So I'm blown away with what you were doing. I think we're going to have to do another one because I want to hear more of your stories. But I do want to, we've got people on here and they're going to want to know where to find you. So can you let us know where they can find you?
So I'm located in Gympie, which is the top end of the Sunshine Coast. You can find me on Instagram. I don't have a website as yet. I'm just so busy, I don't have the time to even get that set up. So Instagram, nativity_spinal flow, or you can find me on the practitioner website as well in that directory there.
Yay. Thank you so much. I just appreciate who you are, what you're doing, and how you are showing up. And I love that you come in with that medical knowledge as a nurse. So you're
Yes.
really aware of what's happening in the function of people's bodies. And
yes.
like, I think it's beautiful to combine that. So thank you so much for sharing with us today.